The Great Hall of the Galactic Council stretched out like a metal ocean. Silver walls rose high above, covered with lights that pulsed in patterns no human eye could fully understand. The air hummed with the sound of 47 different species, breathing, clicking, and vibrating in their own unique ways. Commander Lehana walked slowly down the center aisle. Her black boots made soft sounds on the smooth floor. She wore the simple blue uniform of Earth's Space Command with no weapons on her belt and no guards at her side. Her dark hair was pulled back in a neat style, and her face showed no fear. Around her, creatures from across the galaxy watched with eyes that glowed, blinked, and stared. Some had skin like rocks. Others looked like moving water. A few seemed to be made of pure light. All of them were much larger than the small human woman walking toward the center of the room. The defendant's platform stood in the middle of the hall, surrounded by rows of seats that rose up like stairs. Hana stepped onto the platform and placed her hands behind her back. She looked up at the judges without blinking. High above her, the chief judge of the council moved forward. His name was Thexmol, and he belonged to the Velkari people. His body was made of living crystal that caught the light and threw it back in rainbow colors. When he spoke, his voice sounded like music played through broken glass. "We are here today to judge the crimes of humanity," Thexmol announced. His words were changed into sounds that Hana could understand by machines built into the walls. "The charges are very serious. Humanity has broken 17 treaties between the stars. They have taken control of 12 systems that belong to no one. They have used weapons that are against our laws." Murmurs spread through the watching crowd like waves on water. Hana heard clicks, whistles, and growling sounds that meant different things in different languages. The translation machines worked hard to change all these sounds into words she could understand. In the observation deck high above, Lieutenant Kim Jiwoo pressed her face against the clear wall. She watched her commander stand alone against the most powerful beings in the known universe. Jiwoo's hands were pressed flat against the glass, and she could feel her heart beating fast. Jiwoo had served with Hana for 3 years. She had seen her commander face impossible situations before. But this was different. This was not a battle in space or a fight on a distant planet. This was politics, and the rules were different here. The human stands accused of leading attacks on peaceful world, continued another judge. This one belonged to the hegemony, a group of 6-armed beings who had ruled their part of space for thousands of years. General Morthak stood up, his multiple arms moving in complex patterns as he spoke. "We have proof of human ships destroying our fleets," Morthak said. "Yet when we examine the wreckage, we find no trace of the weapons used. Our best scientists cannot explain how humans win battles against forces 10 times their size." Onde remained silent. She had been told to speak only when asked direct questions. Earth's lawyers had spent months preparing her for this moment. They had taught her every rule of galactic law and every custom of each species present, but none of that mattered now. What mattered was what she represented. She was not just Commander Lehana anymore. She was humanity itself, standing trial before the universe. "Human," called out a voice from the left side of the hall. The speaker was tall and thin, with skin that looked like polished metal. Ambassador Kreldines of the Trade Federation pointed one long finger at Hana. "You will answer our questions truthfully, or face immediate punishment." "I understand," Hana replied. Her voice was calm and clear, carrying easily through the huge space. "Where are your weapons?" demanded General Morthak. "Our ships carry plasma cannons that can destroy moons. Our soldiers wear armor that can stop any known force. Yet somehow your people defeat us with ships that appear to have no weapons at all." The hall fell quiet. This was the question that had puzzled the galaxy for months. Human ships looked simple, almost primitive. They carried no visible guns, no missile tubes, no energy shields. Yet in battle after battle, these plane ships had destroyed the most advanced fleets in known space. Hana looked up at the general. "We carry what we need to carry," she said simply. The response was immediate and loud. Laughter erupted from dozens of different species. Some made barking sounds, others clicked rapidly, and a few produced musical notes that rose and fell like songs. The translation system could not handle laughter well, so the sounds came through as a chaos of noise. High in the observation deck, Jiwoo closed her eyes. She knew that laughter was exactly what Hana had wanted to hear. "You mock this assembly with your evasion," shouted Thexmol, his crystal body flashing with angry light. "You stand before the combined might of 47 civilizations and you speak in riddles." "I speak truth," Hana replied. "We bring only what we need." More laughter filled the hall. To the assembled aliens, the idea was ridiculous. A single, human woman, standing alone with empty hands, claiming to be a threat to the entire galaxy. It was the funniest thing many of them had heard in years, but not everyone was laughing. In the third row, Dr. Velketh of the Research Consortium watched the human with growing concern. She had spent weeks studying human military tactics, and she had begun to see patterns that worried her. Humans did not fight like other species. Most civilized beings had learned to avoid conflict through millions of years of evolution. War was something from their ancient past, a primitive behavior they had grown beyond. But humans were different. They came from a world that had tried to kill them every single day. They had learned to survive by being smarter, faster, and more creative than everything that wanted to eat them. They had turned survival into an art form, and now they were loose in a galaxy full of peaceful, predictable species who had forgotten what real predators looked like. The laughter continued, but Dr. Velketh was not amused. She was beginning to understand that this trial might not end the way everyone expected. Commander Lee Hana stood quietly in the center of the noise, waiting for silence to return. She had come here knowing she would be mocked and threatened. She had come knowing that most beings in this room saw humans as primitive savages who had stumbled into space by accident. That was exactly what she wanted them to think. The real war was just beginning. 3 months before the trial, Captain Park Min-ho stood on the bridge of the UES Harmony and watched history unfold on his main screen. The ship floated in empty space near the edge of human territory, waiting for the most important conversation in human history. The bridge was quiet except for the soft hum of machines and the gentle beeping of sensors. 20 crew members worked at their stations, but nobody spoke above a whisper. Everyone knew that what happened in the next few hours would decide the future of the human race. "Contact established," reported Communications Officer Lee Jamin. "The Galactic Council is ready to speak with us." Min-ho nodded and straightened his uniform. Behind him, Ambassador Choi Sura took her place at the diplomatic station. She had spent 15 years learning alien languages and customs, preparing for this moment when humanity would first speak to the wider galaxy. The main screen flickered and changed. Suddenly the bridge was filled with the image of beings unlike anything most humans had ever seen. The council's representative was a creature that looked like it was made of flowing water, but somehow kept its shape. Its voice came through the translation system as a series of musical tones. "Greetings, species of Earth," the alien said. "I am Coordinator Mirthalin of the Galactic Council. We welcome you to the community of intelligent life." "Thank you," Ambassador Sura replied, bowing slightly as she had been taught. "We are honored to meet you." "Your species shows great promise," Mirthalin continued. "However, there are rules that all civilized beings must follow. For your own protection and the safety of others, you must surrender all weapons technology to Council authority." The bridge fell silent. This was not what they had expected. Captain Min-ho stepped forward, his face carefully neutral. "We appreciate your concern," he said, "but humanity prefers to remain independent. We have no desire to threaten anyone, but we also cannot give up our ability to defend ourselves." The water being's form rippled in what might have been surprise. "You misunderstand. This is not a request. All species must comply with galactic law. You will be given protectorate status and placed under the care of more advanced civilizations." Ambassador Sura exchanged glances with Captain Min-ho. They had hoped for trade agreements and cultural exchange. Instead, they were being told to surrender without a fight. "What if we refuse?" Sura asked quietly. Then you will be considered a threat to galactic peace, Mirthalin replied. And threats are removed. The conversation ended there. The alien's image disappeared from the screen, leaving the bridge in darkness except for the glow of control panels. Well, said Dr. Yang Bora from her station near the back of the bridge. That could have gone better. Dr. Yang was the ship's specialist in alien biology. She had studied every piece of information about galactic civilization that Earth had been able to gather. Her analysis had prepared them for this moment, but it still felt like a punch to the stomach. They're afraid of us, she continued, walking toward the main screen. Did you see the body language readings? Every species in that council has evolved. Past individual violence, they've forgotten what predators look like. Captain Minho frowned. We're not predators, Doctor. We're explorers. To them, there's no difference, Yang replied. Think about it. Every other species they've encountered became peaceful before they reached the stars. They cooperated their way to space travel. But we're different. She activated a wall display that showed Earth rotating slowly in space. The blue and green planet looked beautiful and peaceful from a distance, but Yang knew the truth. Earth is a death world, she explained. 90% of all species that ever lived on our planet are extinct. We survived ice ages, volcanic eruptions, asteroid impacts, and plagues that would have wiped out any other intelligent life. The display changed to show images from Earth's history. Massive dinosaurs with teeth like swords, oceans full of creatures, designed for nothing but killing, forests where every plant and animal was locked in an endless battle for survival. While these aliens were learning to share and cooperate, Yang continued, we were learning to hunt, hide, and fight. We developed technology not to explore the universe, but to survive on a planet that was trying to kill us every single day. Communications. Officer Lee Jamin looked up from his station. Captain, we're receiving multiple signals. It looks like a lot of ships are moving toward human space. Minho walked to the sensor station and looked at the readings. Red dots were appearing on the star map, dozens of them, all heading toward Earth and the human colonies. How many? He asked. At least 6 different fleets, Jamin replied. They're coming from all directions. The largest group has over 200 ships. Ambassador Sura sat down heavily in her chair. 200 ships. We have what, 30 vessels? In our entire space navy? 37, corrected Dr. Yang. But size isn't everything. Remember what I said about being predators? She called up another display, this one showing Earth's animals. A small house cat stalking a bird. A spider, waiting motionless in its web. A pack of wolves working together to bring down prey much larger than themselves. Predators don't win by being bigger or stronger, she explained. They win by being smarter, faster, and more adaptable. They use patience, strategy, and the environment to their advantage. Captain Minho studied the approaching alien fleets on his screen. Each ship was massive, covered with weapons and armor that could probably destroy Earth's entire navy in a direct fight. But who said anything about a direct fight? Doctor, he said slowly, tell me more about how predators hunt. Yang smiled for the first time since the conversation with the council. Well, Captain, the first rule is never attack when your prey expects it. The second rule is never attack where your prey expects it. And the third rule? Make your prey think they're the hunter right up until the moment they realize they're actually the prey. Minho turned to his crew. All right, everyone, we have visitors coming. Time to show them some Earth hospitality. He opened a communication channel to Earth Command. This is Captain Park Minho of the UES Harmony. Please inform all human colonies and ships to begin Protocol 7 immediately. Protocol 7 had been developed by Earth's military strategists based on thousands of years of human warfare. It was simple in concept but devastating in practice. Instead of meeting enemy forces head-on, human ships would scatter and disappear. The alien fleets would arrive at human colonies to find them apparently abandoned. No ships, no defenses, no signs of life. Just empty space and silent planets. But the humans wouldn't really be gone. They would be waiting, watching, and learning everything they could about their new enemies. Earth's children had survived on a death world by being the most dangerous things in any environment they entered. Now the galaxy was about to learn what that meant. The war for human independence was about to begin, and the aliens had no idea what they were really facing. They thought they were coming to punish primitive savages. Instead, they were walking into a trap set by the most successful predators in the known universe. The first battle happened in the Kepler 442 system, where human colonists had built a small farming settlement on a planet with 2 suns. The world was beautiful, with golden grass that moved in waves across endless plains and purple mountains that touched the sky. Admiral Kethran of the Divine Fleet brought 37 warships to destroy the illegal human colony. Each ship was the size of a city, covered with weapons that could turn a planet to dust. His fleet had never lost a battle in over 200 years of service. Commander Lim Daeho watched the alien ships approach from the colony's command center. He was a quiet man who had come to this world to grow food and raise his children in peace. Now he found himself facing the most powerful military force in the galaxy. The command center was small and simple, built into a hill overlooking the main settlement. Through the windows, Daeho could see houses, farms, and children playing in the streets below. 30,000 humans called this place home. "This is Admiral Kethran of the Divine Fleet," came the message from space. The translation system made the alien's voice sound like thunder rolling across mountains. "You have 1 hour to surrender, or we will destroy your colony." Daeho opened the communication channel. His voice was calm and steady, showing no fear. "Admiral, we are peaceful farmers here. We have families and children. We mean no harm to anyone." "You should have thought of that before you violated our laws," Kethran replied. 1 hour. The channel closed. Daeho looked around the command center at his small team of volunteers. None of them were soldiers. They were teachers, engineers, and doctors who had learned basic military training because they had to. "Any word from the fleet?" asked Maria Santos, the colony's chief engineer. She had come from Brazil to help build this new world, bringing her 2 young sons with her. "Nothing yet," Daeho replied, "but they're out there." Through the command center's sensors, they could see the Divine Fleet moving into attack position. The alien ships were beautiful in their own way, covered with golden armor that caught the light of the twin suns. But they were also terrifying, bristling with enough firepower to crack continents. What the aliens could not see was the asteroid field that drifted between the 2 suns. To their sensors, it looked like any other collection of space rocks tumbling slowly through the system. There were thousands of them, ranging in size from pebbles to mountains. The asteroids had been there for millions of years, created when an ancient planet broke apart. They were perfectly normal, perfectly natural, and perfectly harmless, except that they weren't asteroids anymore. 3 months earlier, when Earth Command had issued Protocol 7, every human ship in the galaxy had found a place to hide. Some had buried themselves in the ice of distant moons. Others had docked inside abandoned space stations. A few had simply powered down and drifted like dead hulks through empty space, but the cleverest had hidden in plain sight. The UES Silent Hunter had been the first ship to try the new camouflage system. Captain Lee Soo-young had ordered her crew to cover their ship's hull with minerals and metals scraped from real asteroids. Then they had powered down everything except life support and let their ship drift into the Kepler 442 asteroid field. To any scanner, the Silent Hunter looked exactly like a space rock. Its heat signature matched the temperature of stone warmed by distant suns. Its metal content seemed natural. Even up close, it would be almost impossible to tell that it was actually a warship. 17 other human ships had done the same thing, spreading throughout the asteroid field like seeds waiting for spring. Admiral Kethran had no idea he was flying into the middle of a human fleet. "Begin the attack," he commanded. "Destroy the colony." The Divine Fleet's weapons began to charge, building up energy that would rain down on the human settlement like fire from the sky. In the command center, Daeho closed his eyes and said a silent prayer for his people. That was when the asteroids began to move. At first, it was subtle. A few rocks drifted slightly out of their normal paths. Others seemed to spin a little faster than they should. The alien sensor operators noticed the changes but assumed they were caused by the fleet's gravity fields disturbing the natural balance. Then the asteroids began to accelerate. "Admiral," called out the Divine Fleet's science officer, "the asteroid field is showing unusual movement patterns." Catherine looked at the sensor readings with growing confusion. Space rocks didn't suddenly change direction unless something pushed them. And these rocks were moving with what looked almost like purpose. "It could be gravitational effects from our ships," suggested the tactical officer. "Sometimes large fleets can disturb local space." But as they watched, more asteroids began to move. They were coming together, forming loose groups that drifted toward the alien fleet. The movement was slow but steady, like a tide of stone flowing through space. "Admiral," the science officer called out again, his voice tight with worry. "These readings don't make sense. Some of these asteroids are accelerating against the gravitational pull. That's impossible unless—" Understanding hit the alien commander like a physical blow. "Unless they have engines," he whispered. The asteroid field exploded into action. 18 human warships threw off their camouflage and powered up their weapons. They had been waiting for hours in complete silence, their crews breathing recycled air and eating cold rations. Now they were hunters revealing themselves to trapped prey. The battle that followed was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. The human ships moved like living things, diving and weaving between the real asteroids while firing missiles and energy beams at the confused alien fleet. The Divine Fleet's ships were powerful, but they had been designed to fight other civilized species who followed the rules of proper warfare. They expected enemies to approach in formation, exchange formal challenges, and fight with honor according to ancient traditions. The humans had no interest in honor. They fought like their ancestors had fought on Earth, using every advantage and every trick they could find. Captain Lee Soo-young brought her ship alongside a massive alien cruiser and fired every weapon she had into its engine section. The alien ship tried to turn its guns on her, but she was already gone, vanishing back into the asteroid field before they could target her. Other human ships used the real asteroids as shields, hiding behind space rocks while they recharged their weapons. When alien ships tried to follow, they found themselves flying into carefully prepared ambushes. The battle lasted 11 minutes. When it ended, the Divine Fleet was nothing but glowing debris scattered across the asteroid field. Not a single human ship had been destroyed. In the colony command center, Deho opened his eyes as reports came in from the surviving alien ships. Most of the fleet was gone, and the few remaining vessels were retreating as fast as they could travel. "Send a message to Earth Command," he said quietly. "Tell them the first test was successful." News of the impossible victory spread across the galaxy faster than light itself. The mighty Divine Fleet, destroyed by primitive humans using ships that looked like space rocks. Every alien military commander in the galaxy studied the battle records, trying to understand how it had happened. But they were asking the wrong questions. They wanted to know what new technology the humans possessed. What they should have asked was what the humans had learned from living on a world where everything tried to kill them. The answer was simple. Survival meant using every trick, every advantage, and every enemy mistake you could find. And the galaxy was full of enemies who didn't know they were making mistakes. Admiral Ko Hyun-woo stood in the war room deep beneath Seoul, looking at a map that showed the entire galaxy. Red lights marked alien fleets, blue lights showed human positions, and yellow dots indicated neutral systems where the real battles were being fought. "Stealth technology is nothing new," he explained to the circle of military leaders around the table. "Every species has tried to make invisible ships at some point in their history, but they all think the same way about it." He pressed a button, and the wall screen showed images of alien stealth vessels. They were sleek and beautiful, covered with materials designed to absorb sensor beams and scatter energy signatures. "They try to become invisible to machines," Ko continued. "Electronic countermeasures, energy dampeners, sensor scramblers. All very advanced, all very expensive, and all completely useless if you think differently about the problem." General Nam Yoonji leaned forward in her chair. She had been fighting aliens for 2 months now, and every battle taught her something new about how they thought. The key insight, Ko said, is that invisibility isn't about being unseen. It's about being ignored. And the best way to be ignored is to look like something nobody cares about. The screen changed to show the aftermath of the Kepler battle. Wreckage from alien ships drifted through space, twisted metal cooling in the darkness between stars. The Divine Fleet never saw our ships because they weren't looking for ships, Ko explained. They were looking for threats. And space rocks aren't threatening. But camouflage was only the beginning. Earth strategists had spent decades studying every piece of information they could gather about galactic civilization. What they learned had changed everything about how humans planned to fight this war. Lieutenant Nam Jisoo had put that knowledge to use during the raid on Outpost 7, a Confederation supply depot in the neutral zone between human and alien. Space Jisoo was 26 years old and had grown up on Mars, where her parents had been mining engineers. She knew how to fix machines, pilot spacecraft, and think her way out of impossible problems. But most importantly, she knew how to lie convincingly. Her ship, the UES Wanderer, approached the alien outpost broadcasting distress signals on all frequencies. The vessel looked like a damaged cargo hauler with scorch marks on its hull and one engine deliberately shut down to simulate battle damage. Confederation Control, this is Captain Kim of the merchant vessel New Dawn. Jisoo transmitted. We are carrying medical supplies and have wounded aboard. Requesting immediate docking permission. The response came quickly from the station's traffic controller. New Dawn, this is Outpost 7. We show battle damage on your vessel. What happened? Pirates, Jisoo replied, letting real exhaustion creep into her voice. They hit us near the Vega system. We lost 3 crew members and most of our cargo, but we managed to escape. There was a pause while the aliens discussed her request. Jisoo knew exactly what they were thinking. Every species in the Confederation had evolved, strong protective instincts toward those in need. The idea of refusing help to wounded beings would be almost impossible for them to consider. New Dawn, you are cleared for emergency docking at Bay 7. Medical teams are standing by. Thank you, Control. We're coming in. The Wanderer limped toward the massive space station, trailing fake plasma exhaust that looked like engine damage. Outpost 7 was a fortress designed to guard the shipping lanes, bristling with defensive weapons and home to over 10,000 alien personnel, but its airlocks opened willingly for a ship in distress. Jisoo docked her vessel and opened the cargo hold. Instead of medical supplies, 20 human commandos emerged wearing the environmental suits of various merchant species. Each soldier had studied their target race's biology, customs, and behavior patterns for months. The station's security systems had been designed to watch for weapons and aggressive behavior. They were not programmed to suspect merchants carrying emergency medical equipment. Sergeant Park Jin-woo led his team through the station's corridors, following maps they had memorized. During weeks of preparation, they moved slowly and carefully, acting like tired cargo handlers delivering supplies to the medical bay. The aliens they passed barely glanced at them. Why would they? These were obviously just more refugees from the growing conflict doing their part to help the wounded. It took the humans 18 minutes to reach the station's central computer core. Park placed a small device against the main data port and watched as Earth's most advanced computer virus began to spread through Outpost 7 systems. The virus was a masterpiece of human programming, designed not to destroy but to observe and report. It would copy every message, every supply list, every battle plan that passed through the station's computers. Most importantly, it would remain completely invisible to the alien technicians who maintained the systems. 2 minutes. Later, the device finished its work and dissolved into harmless dust. Park and his team began their slow journey back to the docking bay, still acting like helpful merchants. Medical delivery complete, Jisoo reported to the station's control center. Is there anything else you need before we depart? Thank you for your assistance, New Dawn. Safe travels. The Wanderer undocked and limped away from the station, still broadcasting distress signals as it disappeared into hyperspace. Behind them, Outpost 7 continued its normal operations, completely unaware that its entire computer network had been compromised. The raid became a model for dozens of similar operations across the galaxy. Human ships would approach alien facilities disguised as refugees, merchants, or rescue vessels. They would dock, plant surveillance equipment, and leave without firing a single shot. Each success taught Earth's military leaders more about their enemies. They learned supply schedules, fleet movements, and command structures. They discovered which alien species were natural allies, and which ones barely tolerated each other. Most importantly, they learned that the galaxy's peaceful civilizations had forgotten how to suspect deception. Dr. Yang Bora studied the intelligence reports from her laboratory on Luna. As Earth's leading expert on alien psychology, she had become the military's most valuable strategic advisor. "They can't help themselves," she explained during a briefing with Earth's senior commanders. "Every species in the galaxy evolved cooperative behavior before they developed space travel. Helping strangers isn't just what they do, it's what they are." She showed brain scans taken from captured alien prisoners. The images revealed neural structures completely different from human brains. "Look at these patterns." Yang pointed to specific regions that glowed with activity. "Their brains are literally wired for trust and cooperation. Deception causes them actual physical discomfort. They can learn to lie, but it goes against their fundamental nature." Admiral Ko studied the brain scans with interest. "So they're telling the truth when they claim to be a peaceful civilization?" "More than that," Yang replied. "They're incapable of understanding a truly deceptive enemy. They assume everyone else thinks like they do. It's like they're colorblind but for dishonesty." The implications were staggering. Humanity was fighting an enemy that could not comprehend the human way of thinking. While alien military leaders planned for honorable battles between opposing fleets, humans were stealing their secrets and turning their own compassion against them. Lieutenant Nam Jisu completed her 15th successful infiltration mission by posing as a religious pilgrim, seeking passage to a holy world. Her ship was actually loaded with sensors that recorded every detail of alien defensive positions along the pilgrimage route. The aliens not only allowed her to pass, they provided her with detailed star charts to ensure she wouldn't get lost. "We're not warriors," Jisu reported back to Earth Command after the mission. "Warriors fight other warriors. We're something they don't have a word for." She was right. The galaxy had many words for soldier, fighter, and defender. But they had no word for the thing humans had become. They had no word for predator. Because in a universe full of evolved prey animals, predators had been extinct for millions of years. Until now. Fleet Admiral Rexthar stood in the command center of the combined forces, staring at reports that made no sense. In 3 months of warfare, the galaxy's most powerful military alliance had lost over 400 ships to an enemy that seemed to have no weapons. Rexthar belonged to the Saurian Empire, a proud warrior race that had conquered half their home galaxy before joining the galactic community. His scales were deep red with age, and his yellow eyes burned with frustration that he could barely contain. "Explain this to me again," he demanded, his voice a low growl that made his staff officers step back nervously. "How does a species with no visible fleet destroy our battle groups?" Commander Zilthanor of the War College cleared his throat carefully. "Sir, our analysis suggests the humans are using some form of advanced stealth technology. Their ships appear to be ordinary objects until they attack." "Stealth technology," Rexthar repeated slowly. "Something every civilization develops eventually. Yet somehow these primitives use it better than anyone else in the galaxy." The command center's main screen showed the latest disaster. The Third Armada had been patrolling near human territory when they received a distress call from a hospital ship. The vessel was carrying wounded civilians from a border conflict and requested safe passage through the military zone. Naturally, the Armada had allowed the ship to pass. The galaxy's laws of war required all civilized beings to protect medical vessels and their patients. 20 minutes later, the hospital ship had released its cargo. Instead of wounded civilians, the hold contained 300 combat drones that swarmed over the Armada like angry insects. By the time the alien commanders realized what was happening, half their fleet was destroyed. "They use our mercy against us," Rexthar said quietly. "Every time we try to help them, they turn it into a weapon." Dr. Velketh stepped forward from her position near the back of the room. She was a consortium scientist who had been studying human tactics since the war began. Her research had revealed uncomfortable truths about the nature of their enemy. With permission, Admiral, I believe the problem is more fundamental than stealth technology, she said carefully. I've been analyzing human behavior patterns, and I think we're facing something unprecedented in galactic history. Rexthar turned his burning gaze on the small scientist. Continue. Every species in the galaxy achieved interstellar travel through cooperation and peaceful development, Velketh explained. We learned to work together, to trust each other, to build civilizations based on mutual benefit. She activated a holographic display that showed the evolutionary history of dozens of species. Each one followed the same basic pattern: tribal conflicts in their early history, followed by gradual unification and the development of peaceful societies. Humans are different, she continued. Their world tried to kill them every day for millions of years. While we were learning to cooperate, they were learning to survive against impossible odds. The display changed to show Earth's evolutionary history. Ice ages that covered the planet in frozen death, volcanic eruptions that blotted out the sun, mass extinctions that wiped out most life on the planet. Look at their predator species, Velketh said, highlighting creatures from Earth's past and present, tigers that hunt alone using stealth and patience, pack hunters like wolves that coordinate complex strategies, parasites that live inside their hosts while slowly consuming them. She showed footage from the Battle of Proxima Station, where a human medical ship had docked with the alien fortress claiming to carry refugees. The station's automated defenses had shut down to avoid harming innocent civilians. There were no refugees, she explained as the recording showed human engineers emerging from the ship's cargo hold. The vessel contained nothing but specialists who disabled our defenses from within. By the time we realized the deception, the station was lost. The room fell silent as the implications became clear. They were not fighting a technologically advanced enemy or a superior military force. They were fighting something much more dangerous, an entire species that had evolved to deceive, manipulate, and exploit the weaknesses of other living things. You're saying they're natural predators, Rexthar said slowly. More than that, Velketh replied. They're persistence hunters. On Earth, humans hunted animals much larger and stronger than themselves by chasing them until the prey collapsed from exhaustion. They didn't need to be faster or stronger. They just needed to be more patient and more clever. She showed recordings of human ships that had followed alien fleets for weeks, staying just out of sensor range while gathering intelligence. When the alien crews finally stopped to refuel and rest, the humans would strike with surgical precision. They're doing the same thing to us, she continued. Every battle we fight teaches them more about our tactics, our technology, and our psychology. But we learn nothing about them because they never fight the same way twice. Admiral Rexthar studied the data with growing alarm. His people had been warriors for thousands of years, but they had always fought according to established rules. Honor duels between champions, formal challenges between fleets, wars that ended when one side admitted defeat. The humans had no interest in honor or formal rules. They fought to win, using any method that worked. What do you recommend? He asked. We have to change our approach, Velketh said. No more mercy, no more humanitarian exceptions. From now on, we destroy every human vessel on sight, regardless of their claims or apparent circumstances. The suggestion sent ripples of discomfort through the command staff. For millions of years, galactic civilization had been built on the principle that all intelligent life deserved protection and consideration. The idea of shooting first and asking questions later went against everything they believed. But they were desperate. The combined forces had lost nearly 1,000 ships while the humans seemed to grow stronger with each passing day. Very well, Rexthar decided. Issue new standing orders to all fleet commanders. Any vessel identified as human is to be destroyed immediately. No warnings, no demands for surrender, no exceptions for medical or civilian ships. The order went out across the galaxy within hours. Every alien military commander received the same message: show no mercy to humans, because they would show none in return. It was exactly what humanity had been hoping for. Captain Park Min-ho received the intelligence report while his ship drifted in the shadow of a dead moon. The news brought a grim smile to his face as he called his senior officers to the bridge. "They've taken the bait," he announced. As of 6 hours ago, the combined forces issued kill-on-sight orders for all human vessels. Lieutenant Commander Yoon Mirai looked confused. "Sir, how is that good news? They're going to shoot at us without warning now." "Think about it," Min-ho replied. "What happens when a supposedly peaceful civilization starts destroying medical ships and refugee transports?" Understanding dawned on the faces around him. For 3 months, humanity had been painted as the aggressors in this conflict. They were the ones who had refused to join galactic civilization. They were the ones who had attacked peaceful fleets. But now the aliens would be forced to destroy ships full of innocent civilians, medical supplies, and humanitarian aid. Ships that, according to every news report and official statement, contained nothing but peaceful refugees. The galaxy would watch as their own military forces gunned down hospital ships and rescue vessels. Public opinion would shift as ordinary citizens began to question why their leaders were killing beings who appeared to be asking for help. "Send word to Earth Command," Min-ho ordered. "Operation Sympathy is approved for immediate implementation." Within days, human ships began appearing throughout the galaxy, all of them broadcasting humanitarian missions. Medical vessels carrying vaccines to plague worlds, rescue ships searching for survivors of natural disasters, transport ships evacuating civilians from war zones. Each ship was real, carrying actual medical supplies and genuine refugees. The humans had simply made sure that every ship also contained hidden sensors, communication equipment, or small groups of specialists who could gather intelligence while helping people. The alien military commanders faced an impossible choice. They could follow their orders and destroy ships that were genuinely saving lives, or they could allow the humans to continue their intelligence operations under humanitarian cover. Some chose mercy and were relieved of command when their superiors discovered human surveillance equipment in the facilities they had allowed the ships to service. Others followed orders and watched their public approval ratings collapse as news networks showed footage of military vessels destroying hospital ships. Dr. Velketh watched the political situation deteriorate from her laboratory. Her warnings about human psychology had been accurate, but she had failed to predict how effectively they would use galactic society's own values against them. "They're turning us into the monsters," she reported to Admiral Rexthar. "Every time we follow standing orders, we confirm their propaganda about aggressive alien militaries oppressing peaceful humans." Rexthar studied the latest public opinion surveys. Support for the war had dropped to 30% across most of the galaxy. Protests were breaking out on dozens of worlds, demanding an end to attacks on humanitarian vessels. "How do we fight an enemy that weaponizes our own morality?" he asked. The Galactic Council chambers were quieter now than they had been at the start of Commander Lee Hana's trial. 6 hours of testimony had revealed the scope of human military operations across the galaxy. The evidence was overwhelming and undeniable. Hana still stood alone on the defendant's platform, her hands still empty, her face still calm. But now the alien representatives looked at her with something approaching fear. This small human woman had become the symbol of everything that terrified them about her species. Counselor Pratham of the Federation rose from his seat, his multiple eyes focused on Hana with barely controlled anger. "The charges have expanded beyond simple treaty violations," he announced. "Humanity stands accused of crimes against the very foundation of civilized society." The main display showed recordings from dozens of human operations. Ships disguised as asteroids, medical vessels that carried spy equipment, refugee transports that were actually military intelligence platforms. "You fight without honor," Pratham continued, his voice rising. "You use deception, manipulation, false surrenders. You violate every principle that separates civilization from barbarism." Murmurs of agreement rippled through the assembly. Many of the aliens present had lost ships, bases, or personnel to human trickery. They wanted justice, or at least an explanation, for how their advanced civilizations had been outmaneuvered by primitive newcomers. Hana waited for the noise to die down before responding. "We fight to survive," she said simply. "That is what humans do." Survival does not excuse dishonor, declared General Morthak, his 6 arms gesturing dramatically. A warrior who cannot win through strength and courage deserves defeat. Perhaps, Hana replied, but a species that cannot adapt to changing circumstances deserves extinction. The word sent a chill through the chamber. This was not the language of diplomacy or negotiation. This was the voice of a predator explaining the rules of natural selection to prey animals who had forgotten they could be hunted. Thexmol, the crystal-bodied chief judge, leaned forward on his elevated platform. You have avoided our central question throughout this proceeding, he said, his musical voice carrying clearly through the vast space. Where are your weapons? Our fleets have been destroyed, our bases compromised, our strategies countered. Yet our best scientists cannot identify the technology you use. The chamber fell completely silent. This was the question that had puzzled the galaxy for months. Human ships appeared to carry no armaments, yet they devastated forces 10 times their size. High in the observation deck, Lieutenant Kim Ji-woo held her breath. She knew what Hana was about to reveal, the truth that would change how every species in the galaxy viewed humanity forever. Hana stepped forward, closer to the assembled judges. When she spoke, her voice was soft, but somehow more menacing than any shouted threat. You want to know our weapons? She asked. Very well, I will tell you. She gestured to the evidence displays that surrounded the chamber. Our weapons are time and patience. While your fleets rush to battle, we watch and learn. While your commanders follow predictable strategies, we adapt to each new situation. The alien representatives leaned forward, still not understanding. Our weapons are your own expectations turned against you, Hana continued. You see a damaged hospital ship and offer aid, because that is what civilized beings do. You allow refugees to dock at your stations because protecting the innocent is part of your nature. Dr. Velkath, sitting in the scientific observer section, closed her eyes as the truth became clear. She had spent months studying human psychology, but she had missed the most important point of all. Our weapons are your protocols and mercy, Hana said, her voice growing stronger. Every law you have written to protect the innocent becomes a door we can walk through. Every humanitarian instinct you possess becomes a tool we can use. She turned slowly, addressing different sections of the chamber as she spoke. You created a civilization based on trust and cooperation. You made rules that assume everyone will act in good faith. You built institutions that depend on shared moral values. Her voice dropped to barely above a whisper, but every being in the chamber heard her clearly. And then you met a species that had spent millions of years learning to exploit the weaknesses of other living things. The revelation hit the assembly like a physical blow. They had been trying to fight an enemy that was using their own civilization as a weapon against them. You cannot comprehend true deception because it is alien to your nature, Hana continued. When we disguise a warship as an asteroid, you see a rock. When we approach your stations claiming distress, you see beings in need of help. When we broadcast humanitarian missions, you see medical personnel saving lives. She paused, letting the words sink in. You see these things because you are incapable of seeing anything else. Your brains are wired for cooperation and trust. Ours are wired for survival. General Morthak stood up, his voice shaking with rage. You admit to being monsters. You admit to using our compassion against us. I admit to being human, Hana replied calmly. We are what our world made us, a planet that tried to kill us. Every day for 4 billion years taught us lessons that your peaceful civilizations never learned. She walked to the center of the platform, her empty hands visible to all. I don't need weapons, she said, her quiet words somehow filling the enormous chamber. Because you are my weapons. Your compassion, your predictability, your inability to conceive of an enemy that thinks as we do. The silence that followed was deafening. 47 species sat in stunned recognition of a truth they had never wanted to face. Every battle you fight teaches us more about your capabilities, your strategies, and your weaknesses, Hana continued. But you learn nothing about us because we never fight the same way twice. We are persistence hunters and you are our prey. Counselor Pratham found his voice first. What do you want from us? Recognition, Hana replied simply. Accept that humanity will not be absorbed into your galactic community as a protectorate species. Acknowledge our right to exist as independent equals. And if we refuse? Hana's smile was small and cold. Then this war continues. And every day it continues. We learn more about you while you learn nothing about us. She gestured to the evidence displays around the chamber. In 6 months we have infiltrated your command structures, compromised your communication networks, and turned your own public opinion against you. We have done this with a fleet that you could destroy in an hour of direct combat. The threat was clear. If humanity could accomplish so much while pretending to be weak and desperate, what could they achieve once they stopped pretending? We did not choose this war, Hana said. You demanded our surrender before you even knew what we were capable of. Now you have learned what happens when you threaten a species that survived by being the most dangerous predator on a world full of killers. The chamber remained silent for long minutes as the assembled aliens processed what they had heard. They had expected to judge primitive savages. Instead, they had discovered that they were the primitives, and the savages had been studying them all along. Finally, Thexmol spoke. What are your terms? Simple, Hana replied. Withdraw all military forces from human territory. Recognize our sovereignty over the systems we currently occupy. Establish normal diplomatic and trade relations. And, in return, we stop teaching the galaxy what humans are capable of when they stop pretending to be harmless. The vote was held in emergency session 6 hours later. 41 species voted to accept human terms. Only 6 voted to continue the war. As the treaty was signed, Ambassador Choi Sura approached Hana in the diplomatic suite reserved for the human delegation. Did we win? She asked quietly. Hana looked out through the suite's window at the stars beyond. Somewhere among those lights were human colonies, human ships, and human families who would now be safe from galactic intervention. We survived, she replied. That's what humans do. 3 months later, Captain Park Minho stood on his bridge and watched Earth turn slowly below. His daughter had been born during the war, part of a generation that would grow up in a galaxy where humanity was no longer seen as primitive or helpless. The other species would learn to coexist with their new neighbors. They would build trade relationships, cultural exchanges, and perhaps even friendships over time. But they would never again make the mistake of assuming that humanity was weak simply because they appeared to fight without weapons. After all, the most successful predators were the ones their prey never saw coming until it was too late. And humanity had spent 4 billion years learning to be very, very good at not being seen until the moment they chose to reveal themselves. The galaxy would never be the same, and perhaps for the first time in millions of years, that was exactly what it needed.